Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2004, it's a Toyota 4Runner. We're going to be changing the rear brake rotors, and we're going to be changing the rear brake pads and hardware kit at the same time. What happened on this particular truck is that I did the right rear already, that's all finished. The right rear was actually grinding, and the reason it was actually grinding is not because the caliper was bad, but it was because the brake pads were rusted into the mounting bracket. So we are going to change the hardware kit, like I said, and we are going to clean up the rust that's below the hardware kit. If you don't clean up that rust and you put the new brake pads in there, you're going to have the exact same problem again. You're going to prematurely wear out your brakes, causing a pulsating problem and numerous other issues as well. So let me bring you on. I'm going to show you what kind of tools we're going to need. Basic hand tools is all you're going to need to do this job. You're going to need some synthetic brake grease and light, of course, so you can see what's going on. Alright, so let's show you the tools, and then we're going to talk about what we're going to do here. This is an example of what kind of tools you're going to be needing to do the job. You're going to need some synthetic brake grease. You're going to need a hammer in order to persuade the rotor to come off the truck. You're going to need a disc like this to clean up any kind of rust that's on the axle portion where it goes through the back of the rotor. We're going to need a file. If you don't have a grinding wheel with a wire wheel on it, you'll need to have something like this to clean up that rust. We're going to need a tool to push that piston back in all the way. A couple of really long screwdrivers or a pry bar. Some sockets, but as you can see we are using just a 17mm socket. You're going to need a long extension on the ratchet, something that's very long, gives you more leverage. It'll make the bolts come out a lot easier. As you know, I always use my swivel head ratchet. I just love that ratchet. You're going to need the new brake pads, and most importantly, you're going to have to change that hardware on there. And of course, my trusty OTC Spectrum light that I use in just about everything. And a rag to clean up any of the rust or any of the grease that's on the slide pins, and some brake cleaner. Alright, so what we're going to basically do is we're going to come over to the car here. We are going to change this rotor, like I said. You can see that this is worn down pretty significantly. We are going to come in here in the back, right over here, with a small little pry bar, and we're going to push that piston all the way back into the bore as far as it can go. Once it pushes in as far as it can go, we're going to take out that 17mm bolt there and there. We're going to take the caliper and lay it off to the side, and then we're going to come up underneath the bottom. We need to take this mounting bracket right here off, and the way you take that mounting bracket off is you take out that 17mm bolt right there. It's right next to the other one. That's 17mm, and I know it's a little difficult to see up here, but there's another 17mm right there as well. We're going to take that off, and then we'll take that mounting bracket off, and once we have that mounting bracket off, we're going to have to bang our rotor a little bit to get it off because it is pretty rusty inside here, or we can just screw a bolt right in through here and push the rotor back out. We'll see how that develops as we get into it. Alright, so alright, let me get my gloves on and let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pry bar such as this. We're going to come in the back right here, and you see how this comes right through on this side of the brake pad. We're just going to keep slight pressure on this. We're going to pull it towards us, and then we're going to push that piston back in. And by doing that, we're checking these slide pins here to make sure that the slide pins are working properly, which I know they're going to, because these slide pins don't freeze up like others do. You see how it's actually pushed in all the way now? Now, I know that I'm going to have to push this in with the tool to push that piston back in the rest of the way, because the other side I had to do that on the other side as well. But you can see now how it slides back and forth. So we know that the slide pins are free and they're not the front rusted solid. What we're going to do is we're going to come up underneath here, and we're going to take out that 17mm bolt there and there. Let me just reposition you so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take out these bolts here. We're going to remove both of these bolts here. We're going to break them loose before we take them out. So let's break them loose. You want to make sure you break them both loose, because otherwise if you take this and break just this one loose, this one up here, the caliper itself may rotate. So two. Now we're going to take these and we're going to clean these off with some brake cleaner, which is on my rag here, and we're just going to wipe these down and get all of that grease off of the old bolts. All right, and for now we're just going to put these off to the side, and we're going to come back to these. Take our caliper off, and we're just going to stick the caliper up and out of the way for now, just like that. And now we're going to take out that 17 millimeter and that 17 millimeter and take that bracket off. You want to make sure you break both of the bolts loose first before you take the bolt totally out of the bracket. Okay, now we'll take this off. And as you can see, well, that pad came out pretty quickly, but you can see that wore down almost all the way down. And this one is the one that's actually stuck. Okay, gets rusted into the bracket pretty tightly. So we're just going to adjust it with this. That's it. I'm just going to show you this too. The piece that I'm talking about, the rust, is actually inside here, and it's actually underneath these little hardware pieces here. But we'll get back to this in a minute. We're going to do this over on the bench. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out this rotor right here. Now you can get underneath here with a hammer and you could bang on this, but you got to be really careful that you don't do any damage to anything else underneath here. So we're going to go underneath here and we're going to bang in the back here very lightly. Now, if that didn't come out, you can screw a bolt in through here, and you can push the rotor off. But we didn't have to do that in this case. Now we just have to get this off the car itself. Now you can get in here with the screwdriver just to give it a little bit of a pull. Don't damage anything in the back over here. The reason it's stuck is because of the rust up on here. So we are going to put a little bit of penetrating oil on there, and then we're going to get that rotor off. What happens is, you see this rust lip inside here, you see how rusty that is? That part of the rust gets caught on the back of the pad, the parking brake pad, and that's why it causes the problem trying to come out. Don't force it, because you don't want to break off the parking brake shoes in the back. Just take it, turn it, pull it, push it in, turn it, pull it. This one here, you cannot get in the back to back off on the adjustment underneath here. Through right there. You would back off the adjustment through the rotor like that. Problem is, this hole didn't line up with that hole there. You can see how it was off-centered. There was no way to get in there with a tool to back off on the adjustment. So if you just work it back and forth, you'll be able to get it off. So now we're going to take this here, we're going to clean this up underneath here. We're going to come in here with the disc like this. We're going to clean up all of this rust that's on here, because it's imperative that this is clean when we put the new rotor back on. So let me grab the tool, clean this up, and then we'll come right back when it's clean. Okay, now that we have this all cleaned up right here, we're going to take our new rotor and put it on over the top like this, making sure that these holes line up correctly down here, so if we ever have to get on there again, we can. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the bench and we're going to clean these up right here. And these clips just come right off, just like that, and like that. Sometimes they get pretty rusted in there. See how rusted everything is inside here? That's where we run into a problem. Once you get that rust inside there, that rust, just that little bit of rust is enough to cause the brake to stay applied. So I'm going to take this over to the bench over there. I'm going to clean it with my grinder, but I should say with my wire brush. But if not, you can use a file such as this to get in here like this and just clean it up nice and clean, just like that. In here, and in here. Everything in there that this clip, everything that this clip goes into has got to be cleaned up so all that rust is gone. So let me take this over to the bench. I'm going to clean it up, but you can do it like I showed you, just like this here. Okay, so let me clean it up, and once it's clean, we'll come right back. Okay, now that we have it all cleaned up, we just take a little bit of the synthetic grease, and every place that that new mounting bracket is going to go is going to be greased up just a little bit to try to reduce that rusting in the future, just like this. Okay. All right. Now we're going to take our new hardware that we previously took off, and we're going to put it back on. There's only one way it goes on. If you don't remember how it came off, make sure you left your shims or your hardware kit to the side so you could reapply it. But basically you have to have the inside has got to be clear. If you look at it this way, you'll see it cannot go that way because the rotor will turn through there and it'll hit right into that. So there is only one way that it can go back on there. Just like that. See? Just like that. All right? And we're going to put the other ones back on. Same way. Now when you put them on, you want to make sure you don't crush down these little tabs on the bottom here by accident, because they need to hold on to the side of the mounting bracket. So you push it on, and then you just push it over, and it snaps right in place just like that. Last one, goes on the same way. Hook it on the outside, then we push it towards the inside, and it snaps right in just like that. All right, now we're going to also take some synthetic brake grease, and we're going to lubricate every place here that the brake pad is going to touch as well, top and bottom, just like that. Any place that the brake pad touches, that has to be lubricated. And now we're going to take our brake pads, and you can put the pads in here on the bench, or you can put them in on the car. I like to do them here because I can see better what I'm doing here versus being in the car, truck. I heard this more than one time from subscribers. Don't you worry about that grease on the brake pad. I am going to clean this all off once I have it back on the car. All right, like that. I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. They're a little snug because the new clips. And that's what it looks like when it's all put back together. That's how it looks. All right, so now let's bring it over to the car, and we're going to put it back together. Okay, then we take our mounting bracket, put it on just like this. Squeeze these brake pads together so they don't fall out by accident on you. And we're going to just put those bolts back in. Let's get some light up here so you can see a little better. And now we're going to catch those 17mm bolts that hold the mounting bracket on. You're going to catch both of them by hand before you tighten anything else up. Because if you tighten up the one, the other bolt may be off just a little bit. Squeeze your brake pads again so they don't pop out. Okay, just so you know, there is torque specs on these bolts. I will look up the torque specs and I will come back and tighten these up. But for now, we're just going to continue right here. Now, let me get those specs and we'll come right back. Okay. All right, so now we have everything torqued down the way it's supposed to. We're going to take our caliper. Oh, this piston, we actually have to push that back in, so let me just grab the old brake pads and I'm going to show you how to push that back in. Okay, the way you push this pad, this piston back in, is you put a brake pad in here like this, and you put a brake pad in here like this. Just like that. Now I put two pads in here because it's actually has to push it in quite a bit. It's a little easier when you have it a little tighter. And we just turn it and you can see that piston going all the way back in. We're going to take some silicone and we're going to put a little bit of silicone on the piston itself, just like this. Anywhere that the brake pad touches, you want to have silicone on it. It reduces the sounds coming from it. And then we'll just lay this on just like this. Alright, I look back and the battery went dead on my, my camcorder. I don't know where I lost you, but we're going to just continue where I think it was. Alright, now we take our bolts, put them back in through here. Make sure you don't knock that rubber seal down. You need to have that seal in the upright position. Alright. Now before you tighten them both up, you want to make sure they're both caught. Okay, now there is torque specs on this too, so we will come back and torque those once I look them up. Alright, so let's recap what we did here. Okay, so what we did is we cleaned up the bottom part underneath here on the axle where the rotor connects onto. We got all of that rust off of here. We cleaned up our rotor with some brake cleaner, got that grease off there that actually comes from the factory with. We installed our new hardware on the caliper mounting bracket, and we made sure we cleaned up all that rust that was actually on there too. We cleaned all that rust off of that mounting surface there. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to go. We tightened up those 17mm bolts there and down here as well. We also installed our two 17mm bolts here that hold the brake pads in. And we lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch. Here, here, and of course back there on the piston. Alright, that's it. Brakes are done. Alright, so like I said, I did the other side first. This side here I did last. The back brakes are now done. I will warn you on this. When you get in the car and you step on the brake, your brake pedal is going to go to the floor. Don't freak out. It's not a big deal. That's just the way it is whenever you put new brakes in there. Because what happens is you have your new brake pads inside here, such as this. The piston has to touch in the back over here, but the piston, remember, you pushed it back in, it's all the way back here. So when you step on the brake pedal, it pushes that piston back out, it comes in contact with the brake pad, and then it squeezes it together so it's a nice tight fit on there. So it is normal for the brake pedal to go to the floor for probably 3, 4, 5 times, and then you'll notice the pedal is up on top. You will get a little bit of a burning smell, you will get a little bit of a smoking issue. It's not a big deal, nothing to worry about. It'll go away within a very short period of time. If you had to open up the brake bleeder for any reason, or you had to change a caliper, or you had to change the brake hose or anything like that, you're going to need to bleed the air out of the system. That's not the case in this job. We did not have to do that, so we're not going to bleed the brakes. That's it, we're done. Put the wheels on, take it for a road test, and it's out the door and on to the next one. All right, thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.